In 1971, Treasury Secretary Connolly turned to the world and delivered that infamous line, "The dollar is our currency, but it's your problem." At that moment, it represented the greatest geopolitical power play in financial history. But today that problem has transformed into an uncontrollable macroeconomic wreckage. Let's confront the numbers. $38 trillion. This means America has doubled its debt burden in just 10 years. Let's be real. If this balance sheet belonged to any G7 nation, we wouldn't call it a crisis, we'd call it mathematical insolvency. Yet for America, it somehow remains in a strange, untouchable zone. This is where the dollar paradox begins. America pays $1 trillion annually in interest alone. Yet despite this, global capital still rushes toward the world's largest debtor during every crisis. Why? Is this luck? Or is it a structural mechanism nobody talks about? The answer? The Triffin Dilemma. In this video, we'll analyze the system that makes the dollar simultaneously the world's greatest weapon and its weakest link. And we'll calculate when this empire gets reset. Let's begin. Finance has a very specific name for this: Exorbitant Privilege. What is this privilege? Simply put, the ability to borrow using the paper you print yourself and export your inflation to the world. America doesn't need to produce wealth to pay its debt. It just needs to hit print. This status grants the US Treasury an asymmetric advantage. America borrows at 60 to 80 basis points cheaper than nations holding equivalent credit ratings. It might sound small, but this small differential translates into $228 billion in annual budget savings. Free money, literally. So what does this system rest upon? Two unshakable pillars. First, 88% of global foreign exchange transactions occur in dollars. Second, 40% of international trade is invoiced in dollars. In other words, whether you're buying oil in Asia or selling coffee in South America, you're paying Washington a transaction fee. But every privilege carries a price. Economist Robert Triffin saw this in the 1960s. We call it the Hegemon's structural trap. The mechanism operates like this. The global economy is growing, right? To grow, it needs liquidity. It needs dollars. What must America do to satisfy this need? It must continuously run current account deficits and pump dollars into the world. The equation is straightforward. The larger the global economy grows, the more America must borrow. The system is architected this way. However, the other side of the coin is dark. These continuously expanding deficits and the structurally uncontrolled growth of debt mountains eventually destroy the single thing underpinning currency: trust. The crisis we're experiencing today is precisely this dynamic. America drowns the world in dollars, but simultaneously confronts the structural bill for losing its own fiscal discipline. Now, let's set emotion aside and speak the cold language of data. The picture is anything but encouraging. As of April 2025, exactly 18.4% of American government revenues flowed directly to interest alone. Pay attention, not principal, just interest. The trend is even more frightening. By year-end 2025, annual interest payments will reach $1 trillion. The 2035 projection? $1.8 trillion. To contextualize, America throws away more in annual debt interest than many European nations allocate to their entire defense budgets. The public debt to GDP ratio has climbed to 125%. During a non-recessionary period, the budget deficit reaches 6.2%. This isn't a sustainable economy. This is a mathematical time bomb waiting to detonate. So when does this era end? The moment Washington began weaponizing the dollar geopolitically, it accelerated its own timeline. The freezing of Russia's reserves served as an awakening call for the global south. The response didn't take long. Central banks are diversifying their reserves. The share of gold reserves catapulted from 24% to 30% within months. America now panics to use stablecoins through laws like the Genius Act as a new debt buffer. But these maneuvers cannot stop the structural collapse. Let's be real, the dollar won't collapse tomorrow morning. But that absolute monopoly, when the dollar was the only option, that era is finished. We're transitioning toward a multipolar financial architecture. So what's the technological engine driving this shift? What's that hidden weapon engineered to remove the dollar from the equation? In the next video, we'll analyze the new name for financial independence, Project Enbridge. The future is being shaped there. Stay tuned.